Hey y'all, welcome back to New Slang. I'm music journalist Thomas Mooney. This is episode 175, and we're closing down the week with Corey Baum of Croy The Boys. Croy The Boys just released a new EP on 420 called Of Course They Do. What they do is pretty cool on this one. It's a bunch of country covers of punk songs. It's amazing how so many of those old punk songs, they're still so relevant for today, and maybe a little bit more so after this past year. During this one, we really had a great conversation about writing about the common man, migration patterns within the US, gentrification and abandonment. Corey's done such a stellar job at writing about these problems and these concerns without feeling whiny or preachy. You really don't lose that earnestness in his voice. And we really talk about that, how he channels a lot of that anger and the frustration into these songs. And it's actually kind of amazing how easily it was to transition from the conversation about that into the music industry and how those affect art and culture in these cities. I think our go-to examples throughout are consistently Austin and Lubbock, of course, but you can probably relate those to any American city. It's all connected. To quote one of my favorite shows of all time, The Wire, all the pieces matter. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Sotol. If you've been listening to New Slang for really any amount of time, you'll know that Desert Door is one of my all-time favorite premium, high-quality spirits. If you haven't or aren't sure what exactly a Sotol is, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that's going to up the game on your liquor cabinet. For starters, the best reference point that I can point you to is to think about a tequila or a mezcal. Do you feel that Western desert, that Texas ruggedness? Okay, Sotol is like that, but a little bit more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It intrigues the palate and offers these hints of vanilla and citrus. There's an earthiness that often sends me right back to my Trans-Pecos and far west Texas roots. There's plenty to love about Desert Door. For me, it all starts right there. A close second is just how versatile Desert Door really is. You can go full highbrow and experiment with concocting a variety of cocktails that call for muddling fresh fruit, sprigs of thyme, sticks of cinnamon. It's perfect for that world. If you're a little bit more down home, if you've just rolled up the sleeves of your denim Wrangler button-up, it's perfect for that as well. If you're just desiring something that's short and sweet, it hits the mark every time. Desert Door is genuine and authentically West Texan. It's inherently West Texan. They harvest Sotol plants out in the wild and are knowledgeable conservationists at heart. That's obviously something incredibly important to me. They shine a light on what makes West Texas special and unique and worth preserving and keeping it safe from exploitation. Right now, you can find Desert Door all over Texas, Colorado, Tennessee, and there's budding numbers in places like New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Georgia. Best thing you can do is to check out desertdoor.com to find where Desert Door is locally. Again, that's desertdoor.com. If this is your first time listening to New Slang, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, leaving one of those 5-star reviews goes a long way, so take 2 seconds out of your day and do that real quick. If you're wanting even more New Slang stuff, a great way to support this podcast, my 90s country podcast, The Neon Eon, and journalism in general is to sign up for my Patreon. You can sign up for monthly merch packages, ad-free episodes, or be part of our postcard club for as little as $3 a month. Obviously, I just mentioned The Neon Eon. That is the 90s country podcast that I do. It's interviews and conversations with and about songwriters, songs, artists, albums, and trends of the era. Go and make a pit stop on over at the merch store as well. That would be newslangpodcast.bigcartel.com. Over there's plenty of t-shirts, coffee mugs, shot glasses, stickers, and so much more. And of course, all of these links, they will be in the show notes. But yeah, let's just stop the rambling and get on into it. Here's Corey Baum of Croy The Boys. Yeah, I guess let's start off with just about You know, you guys just released this new EP just a couple. I guess it's in the double digit days, but it's like less than 2 weeks old, I guess now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it came out on 4/20. Easy to remember.
Oh, there you go.
So, so it's coming up on a month, I guess.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, bands and artists probably always have to like be that thinking that far ahead. Like, okay, 4/20 is on a Friday. We can do this record here.
Yeah.
Make sure you got a record coming. I don't even know if 4/20 was a Friday.
It actually wasn't, but for me that was extra like I'm like breaking all the rules with this release. Punk songs done country, released on the wrong day of the week on an illicit holiday.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like almost like a record store thing too. Like a record store day thing where like you'll have like the special releases of, where it's not on a Friday necessarily.
Totally. And it was Tuesday forever, right? I mean, when I was growing up, the new records came out on Tuesdays when I actually went to record stores to buy new releases on CD.
Yeah, that's what's weird too, is like it makes so much more sense that records would come out on Friday.
Right.
And
totally.
like we were doing it on Tuesday, and then whenever it switched over, like people were like pissed off about it. Like you heard some people were like, Tuesdays was like the best thing. Like, I don't know why we were switching over. And it's like, because it just makes so much more sense. That's why.
Yeah. People get paid on Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I think like Europe does it on Friday, and they had done it like, at least the England did for.
Interesting.
Ever. So, I mean, like it's just one of those things. It's like, we're still hanging on to, the U.S. system as far as inches and pounds and,
Yeah, totally, man. So,
yeah. But yeah, going back to the EP, I mean, this has been one of those things where obviously this past year we've been in this quarantine. We've been in COVID year. How was it different, obviously, cutting this EP? Did you guys come across any kind of, like, obviously, like, I'm sure there's some things that you guys had to do differently.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's no comparison between this album and anything I've ever done before. Recording-wise. Basically, this EP started... so for... during COVID, me and my band were like completely separated from each other. A couple members of the band specifically live with elderly relatives and stuff. And so they were, out in the, some live out in the country and stuff. So they're just like, basically we're like, I'm not coming to the city and y'all ain't coming out here. And so we really didn't see each other, but I'm like a pretty active songwriter, and I don't know, I was just trying to figure out ways to keep things moving, and wanted to stay active with them. And so I basically rented some like real basic recording gear. I bought a couple microphones. I think I had a gift certificate to Guitar Center. So I bought like an SM58 or something. Yeah, I bought a 58 and 57 and then rented just some real basic like audio interface stuff. And basically everyone else in the band did the same. And so we decided that we were just going to kind of experiment with recording things on our own and sending tracks. So normally we've gone into the studio and our last two records, our other two records are very, like the foundation of that was recorded live, bass drums playing live together in the studio, and then, overdubbing some guitar and vocals and other instruments and stuff, but very much like everyone in the studio together, working together and capturing stuff live. And so this was a totally different experience. And so that's why initially the first thing we recorded was the song that's sort of the title track, which is a cover by the band Crass of the song called Do They Owe Us a Living. And basically I was just I had a fun time reworking that song on my own, and then I wanted to work on the recording project with the band and see how it turned out. And I didn't really want to waste any of my original songs on like this drawn out recording process if it didn't really work out, So I didn't really have any intention of like releasing a Crass cover, to be honest with you. I thought it'd be a fun way for us to like, just kind of stay creating with each other from afar. And so I recorded the guitar and vocals to a click track, and then I sent it to our drummer, and he recorded drums, and then sent it to our bass player, and she, we call her Analog Amy, so she had someone help her record her bass because she wasn't trying to deal with that. And then, Joe put his accordion on it, and then had some other friends. My friend Simon Page plays pedal steel on it, and his solo is amazing. His parts are great. He also plays with David Ramirez and Jonathan Terrell. And then my friend Doug Walseth, who plays with J.D. Clark here in town, amongst other people, Will Cope. So yeah, I was just kind of sending it around just for fun, and then it all came back, and I was like, well, shit, this sounds great to me, unexpectedly. So I sent it to the dude who mixed our last record, and it was nice because we had just I spent a long time on our last record, Howdy High Rise, partly because I had a kid like right after we finished recording it, and so it just took me a long time to like, I just was only able to work on it like just sporadically throughout the course of like 7 months. But so I spent like a ton of time with the mixer, this guy Joel Hume down in South Austin, and I feel like we really got on the same page. So it was nice when it came to mix this. I had him down there, and I already knew we were really on the same page about kind of what I liked my stuff to sound like. So I didn't really have to, so I just sent it to him, and we were able to really get it dialed in just via email, which can be a pain in the ass if you're like starting from scratch with somebody, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that song, it just came back. I was like, well, this sounds good to me, and I really enjoyed the kind of creative process of like flipping what was, such a kind of aggressive punk song and making it kind of more my vibe. And so I just, kind of made a list of like 10 or 15 other punk songs that I liked that kind of had, I kind of wanted to keep it in the political realm. So I was just kind of choosing songs that made statements that I liked, and was just trying to work out arrangements. And when I came up with an idea that I thought worked, I started the process over again, and recorded myself with guitar to a click track, and then sent it off. And so we just kind of did it track by track, one at a time. And at some point, I think I was just, bored with it, ready to move on. And so it was done.
Right. Yeah. What I've kind of compared to recording it right now in this past year has been like recording in space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone's in their own little pods, and you're, especially if you obviously you've cut some records, but that's obviously in a studio, and like you've had other people be the engineers, and all the stuff that you don't, I guess like the average person doesn't really think about. And
Right.
then, you're essentially kind of making a bedroom record, but in like 4 or 5, 6 different bedrooms.
Yeah.
And like, it's all like you're, I've heard like someone a couple episodes back explain, like she was being explained how to set up mics over Zoom, over like a FaceTime. And like, that's to me like mission control, like, calling back to like, the Apollo mission, trying to like explain
Totally.
how to, make what did like the Apollo 13, they needed like an air filter or something like that. It's the same kind of thing, right? And
totally. Man.
I find that like to be really, really interesting as far as, not necessarily complicating the recording process, but doing it. And what I find really cool with this past EP that y'all put out is adding that element of taking those punk songs and making it something very unique and specific, where, it's not necessarily all the songs that are, going to be on the next Croy the Boys record, full length.
Right.
Kind of making it its own unique, special thing. Putting that box around it, the parameters, if you will.
Totally. Yeah, that's definitely was the idea, I think. Yeah, that'll just be, it's just going to be its own little thing that, it's like a weird year, so weird record, Makes sense to me. But yeah, I mean, totally. I was on YouTube, YouTubing like how to set mics on, watching how they set mics on amplifiers, and figuring out that kind of stuff. There's definitely a learning curve, I basically had never I mean, I have like a 12-year-old laptop with GarageBand on it. So I was just, just did it all with that and just trying to, yeah, pretty basic. I mean, and there's ups and downs to that, I mean, obviously I had some frustration. I'm not like a super tech savvy dude. So I was like, I had moments where I was like, this is why I pay somebody normally, because I don't feel like fucking doing this. But then there are other moments, like specifically I'd say Joe Cornetti, who plays keys and accordion and stuff. I think he produced some really creative parts for a number of the songs. And it's stuff that I think when all of us are in the studio staring at him and when there's like kind of money on the line, I don't think he would have come up with he wouldn't have given himself the time and space to come up with that stuff. And so I feel like he really, especially he like kind of used the process to his advantage by kind of taking advantage of the just being alone, having time to kind of experiment and do weird things.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Totally.
So it's weird how like you can set up like those parameters and the limitations, but then like it opens up other doors where it's like, oh, well, there's all this free space over here that we can try other things that I didn't know we could do.
Right. Totally. I mean, I think anyone that works in a genre like country music appreciates that kind of mentality. You know what I mean? I mean, anytime you work in a genre like that, that's you're embracing a number of kind of parameters already, right? I mean, so
yeah. So one of the things that I've always been drawn to when it comes to your writing is been your ability to really have like that, your finger on the pulse as far as writing about the gentrification of Austin. And obviously like that's anywhere really, but specifically, I mean, like Austin's kind of the epicenter of gentrification and like, just driving out blue collar neighborhoods and putting up high rises and all that kind of stuff. I feel like you've probably done about as good a job as anyone these past, 10 years or so, 5 years, as far as writing about those actual feelings of Austinites, even though you yourself aren't a native.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Like
Thanks,
what's it been like? I guess is like, you kind of write about what you know, and you kind of write about like what is around you. How was it? I guess like falling into, not trying to pigeonhole you here, but like as far as really finding that voice, finding those stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you said it's like I really try to wrote about what I know and what's all around me, and I guess seems like truth to me. And so yeah, like you said, I'm from Ohio originally. I moved to Austin, Texas about 13 years ago, I think. It'll be 13 years this summer. So I've been down here a while, but coming from the Midwest, I kind of I grew up in like kind of the once the effects of like deindustrialization of the Rust Belt really started to like be felt kind of everywhere. I'm from Northwest Ohio, from a college town called Bowling Green, Ohio, right outside Toledo, which is near Detroit. And so, yeah, it was an area where, it had like this really robust working class, where working class people had good jobs that they could be proud of, where they made really good money, and, they could own a boat and they could own a lake house, and they could, it's like whatever that American dream is supposed to be. It's like, I feel like working class people were attaining that in the Midwest throughout like the beginning of the 20th century. And then by the time I came of age, all that had gone away. Those good jobs had left, and there's a lot of, I think, anger and resentment. I mean, it's like those parts of the, those cities aren't attractive to look at. It's like lots of abandoned stuff. So I think I had all that inside of me, and it's funny because I kind of wanted to get away from all that, and that's kind of one of the things that took me so far away from home all the way down to Texas. So it wasn't just being attracted to country music. It was like trying to get to a place where things were a little bit better. But not knowing much about Texas and Texas identity and how proud people are down here, I thought I'd just kind of slide in and be it's like, shit, I'll put on a cowboy hat and be a Texan country singer. And very quickly learned that was not going to be the case, that no one was ever going to let me forget where I was from and but I wasn't from down here. But you know what? I'm so happy for that, because I think that ended up kind of directing, what I write about now, which is like, it kept, basically what I'm saying is it kept me honest. You know what I mean? Like I was lucky enough to fall in with a lot of Texans and Texan musicians. And, I think they're some of the ones that really are responsible for keeping me honest, and not letting me try to write some things about some stuff that I don't know anything about, and try to, I guess, come across as something I'm not. So yeah, I think, kind of just paying attention to what's going on around me, that takes me back to my, my whole life. There's weird things happening, change in the air in the Midwest growing up. And so, come down to Austin, Texas, and, turns out that stuff's happening everywhere. So, just watch the changes around here as well. And yeah. I mean, I guess,
what?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think I was just joking with actually, Casey, the drummer in my band, because I think he's reading a book about art and creativity, or about the artistic process or something. And he said he got to this chapter about how to turn anger into art. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm very, very familiar with that technique. I think like, when I was a younger person, I think I was more inclined to write when I was sad, or upset about things. And I think as I've gotten older, I've been more inclined to write when I'm kind of angry about things. And I think, I really appreciate how, kind of the country music form. And I really appreciate country music, because I think it's a great way for me, it's been a great way for me to vent my anger and frustration and things, in a way that isn't aggressive and violent or anything like that. It's like, I think country music is calming and soothing. And I like kind of walking that line of like being able to express anger and feel angry. But, throughout the course of like one of my own songs, I kind of find myself relaxed by the end of it.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, it's kind of the thing that people always talk about as far as, singer-songwriters go, from being a punk band to being in an alt country band, just because, you can't live like that forever. Or like, it's the whole thing. Like, how many like 40-year-old punk guys do you know that are, that you kind of like, that you still believe, that you're not feeling
totally.
that are, I hate to use this term, like washed up or like, anything like that, but there's that aspect of it. This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has long been the heart and soul of the Lubbock singer-songwriter scene, and has been a home away from home for some of Texas, Americana, country, and rock and roll's finest over the years. Talk with 99.9% of the songwriters who have come out of Lubbock and the Panhandle at large over the past 20 years, and they'll point to just how integral and necessary the Blue Light is. With live music and touring slowly but surely coming back, spots like the Blue Light are getting back to their usual ways as well. That means music every night of the week. Do you want to see that schedule? Well, I've got a few options for you. 1, go to their socials and give them a follow. That is at Blue Light Live on Twitter, at The Blue Light Live on Instagram, and of course by just searching The Blue Light Live on Facebook. They're consistently posting that week's lineup of shows, as well as those heavy hitters that ought to be on your calendar that are coming up on the horizon. 2, check out bluelightlubbock.com as well. There they have the full schedule, the cover charges, time, any of those specials that may be happening. While there, go check out their merch page. They have a wide range of hats, koozies, hoodies, sweaters, beanies, jackets, and so much more. You can, of course, get all of your merch needs when you go see your favorite band take the stage at Blue Light. Just ask the bartender and they will get you all set. Speaking of which, that's another great way of seeing who's playing there. Just go to the Blue Light. It's at 1806 Buddy Holly Avenue here in Lubbock, Texas. And of course, again, that is bluelightlubbock.com. I'll throw a link into the show notes too. Maybe I'll see you there. Okay, let's get back to the show. Okay, so I find, is there any kind of, and this is just, I'm not like an expert by any stretch, But of course, like, we've seen plenty of stuff on the Rust Belt, these cities like Detroit and like St. Louis, and where they've just basically been abandoned in a lot of ways, right? Like there's been people moving away from cities like that. Do you think that like people around there, like there isn't like the gentrification as much? I'm assuming there's not like a bunch of it's not necessarily cool to live in Detroit now, right? In the same way that like maybe Austin obviously is, where you're getting a bunch of people from California or just in other states in general. Do you think there is like this, do you think that like maybe some of that progress would be beneficial? In some of these cities, even though like there's, in some of these Rust Belt cities, you get what I'm saying?
I think,
like, is there like jealousy aspects of like, well, we would actually kind of take some of those Starbucks on every corner, even if we're like just whitewashing a place.
No, I think the important thing is, so I do think Detroit is experiencing some of that. I don't know if it's like, obviously like kind of the word got out like, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, whatever, the houses were selling for like 10 grand in Detroit and stuff. So I think that attracted a lot of out of state and out of city investment. Detroit I don't think Detroit will ever be able to grow to what it was. It was like the third biggest city in the country, I think, at one point. And now it's got like, I don't even know, 1 million people, 500,000 people, something. Its population has declined so much. I don't think it can ever like would ever grow to but I think there's a difference between like growth, just kind of mindless development and growth, which is what I feel like Austin has going on, and what the ideal would be, which would be like inclusive growth. Nobody wants to live in a high crime neighborhood. Nobody wants to live in a city that's like falling apart, that doesn't have services, that doesn't have, people want parks, people want access to nice things and like a decent life anywhere. But I think the way that Austin's growth is happening is that it's taking those people that have been, kind of left behind in specific neighborhoods around Austin and just moving them fully out of the city. It's not elevating those people or making their lives better. It's just saying, we actually need that part of the town now too. So y'all go, So, I think, no, I would not wish what's happening in Austin on Detroit. I would love for Detroit to have some sort of rebound and renaissance, but I would definitely want it to be an inclusive one that elevates the people that have lived in Detroit their whole lives, Right.
Well, it's one of those things where obviously like both are bad. Both are like not great options, but I wonder if there's even just like, if it's just slightly better. I don't even know. Like I was just thinking about that as you were talking about, all these people going away. That's the same thing. I can't remember who it was. It may have been something as dumb as like a TikTok video talking about skylines. But as far as like St. Louis, like you would not recognize that skyline unless it was with the arch there. And like the arch was built whenever St. Louis was like one of those top 10 populous cities in America. And now
it's the gateway to the West.
Yeah. And like, that's the same kind of, it doesn't have the same story as Detroit or like any of these Michigan towns as far as, the automotive business going out. But, St. Louis was, a place at one time. And of course now it's dwindling in numbers. I think like you can, this is maybe like the easiest way to see where population is moving is look at all like the professional teams that used to be in these cities, and then like they all kind of leave. But it's thing. I find like the whole like progress thing, like quote unquote for the sake of progress. Sometimes it's so weird because like here in Lubbock, clearly we're not getting the same thing that's happening in Austin, but you'll see like little pockets of neighborhoods, kind of disappear, and then there's some new nice apartments right across from the campus or whatever the case. What's weird out here is like obviously there's just so much more land that's just used to be like cotton fields, or maybe are currently cotton fields, and they're getting bought up for houses. And
Mm.
Everything outside of town just looks like a Dallas. It looks like Frisco, basically.
Yeah, man.
It has just every little, fast food joint that you need, and a new Target, and etc.
Well, yeah, man. The people that call that kind of stuff progress, that's they're a specific type of person with a specific point of view. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I feel like oftentimes they try to push it. So like, we're just talking about progress in some sort of objective, general sense, but that's not true. That's a very much a perspective thing. So I don't share those people's perspective on calling that kind of stuff progress, And to bring it back to music, it's like, you see it. One of the things I think about all the time when I'm on the road is like, man, what would it have been like to tour back in the day before every single interstate looked exactly the same, no matter where you're at. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're in Brownsville, Texas, or if you are in Portland, Maine. It's like, if you're on the highway cruising, you see the exact same, 15 corporate businesses, and that's it. Like, you wouldn't know where you're at. And that's the type of progress they're talking about. And it's like, man, I would have loved to have seen the country 50 years ago when it was there's regional stuff happening everywhere, and traveling really felt different. It felt like you're somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to like look at that stuff is go look at old postcards, because
Totally.
This sounds so strange, but like you could buy postcards of whatever like unique motel was there
Totally.
in town, and it was not necessarily unique. It was just like a mom and pop.
It was their motel.
Yeah. And now
Totally,
like
man.
no one's gonna buy like a Motel 6.
Well, let me, Thomas.
Or
let
do
me
you
tell
have
you.
one?
Let me tell you. There's in Bowling Green, Ohio, where I'm from. There's like a little general store downtown called Ben Franklin's, and I remember when the Walmart came in, they were really, really concerned. They had, they launched this campaign, and it's a conservatively owned, business. It's like, no, they're not liberal by any means, but they were very concerned with the Walmart. And I guess they had, they put up, they got stuff written in the paper about how Walmart, like at that time, was literally, would come in and see what they were selling and make sure that they were carrying it out at the Walmart for cheaper. And so the city kind of rallied behind Ben Franklin's, and it's still there. We still support that local business, and we still have a Walmart, and that Walmart has since become a mega Walmart or whatever. But Ben Franklin's is still there. But all that to say that Ben Franklin's has, the last time I was up there a few years ago, they have a little kiosk thing with postcards, like you're saying. And there's like there's this house that used to be a windmill. And so they have a picture of the windmill house, where the county seats. They got a postcard with the courthouse in it. And they got a postcard with like the fairgrounds. And I'm not joking with you. The last time I was up there, they had a postcard of our Panera Bread. The Panera Bread moved in downtown. Like, it used to be a local cafe deli. Now it's Panera. And so they didn't even miss a beat. They got postcards. You can buy the Bowling Green Panera on a postcard. So the inclination to celebrate, it's people still want something to feel special to them, and they still want to celebrate that. And it's sad that it's all being kind of just taken away and turned into the same old shit everywhere. But next time I'm up there, I'll send you a postcard from the Bowling Green Panera.
Dude, I love that right there. There for a minute, I was looking at old postcards and trying to get some bought, but a Fort Stockton of just like the old different motels, because like their signs were just so fucking cool. And it's
totally,
like,
man, yeah,
it's a different America as far as like that American dream, where it's like, what I think is like all these people were probably going to the Grand Canyon and have to stop in Fort Stockton at the roadside motel with the swimming pool and the air conditioning and
totally
whatever the case is. I guess cable TV was not around back then, but
right.
It was
right.
It's one of those things where you kind of go like, shit, I do not remember grass being this green in Fort Stockton, but I guess like whatever the case is, whatever they had to do.
Right, man, and that stuff has broader implications for where our economy's at today, because it's like every single one of those locally owned business that represents a person who is a business owner that's been replaced by someone who's a manager. You know what I mean? And that's a lower pay scale.
Mm-hmm.
And then all those local business owners, when they make money, they reinvest that money into their own communities. You know what I mean? And they pay for parks and they like pay for t-ball leagues and all this stuff. And you basically centralize all those business owners in like LA and New York, or wherever like a corporate headquarters is of like Motel 6 or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like same with gas stations, all this stuff. Like these were all opportunities for local people to own businesses, and that helped them achieve, you know, the middle class American dream, and it benefited the whole community. And one by one, it's like these industries have all, you know, that's just kind of the trend, I would say. But
I think that you can, and I made this point early on during the last year, whenever all of a sudden, you know, we were out of toilet paper and we were out of like whatever paper goods in general, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, it's because everything's, you know, centralized, as we're all going to Walmart or whatever, you know, corporate place that's the super center. And if there was a little bit more of an embrace of regionalism, I don't think those problems would have been nearly as bad or as drastic. Like we wouldn't have had the shortages.
I agree with you.
And you can see that in, as far as you mentioned the gas, you can see that in radio. And that's been one of the big things that with the other podcast that I do, the Neon Eon, everyone's mentioned like the Telecommunications Act of like 96, because that made like where corporate radio would become something where now it's like top 40 radio is programmed by, you know, way less guys, way less people. And it's like, well, that's why everything sounds the same now.
No kidding. Yeah. Is that when they, is that when they weakened all the signals?
I'm not sure about the weakening of it, but it's like where basically that's where we get like iHeartRadio, like buying like all these radio. And there's obviously a few other names of these places that I don't even know.
Because I know there was also that radio stations used to be a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you could like, you know, like people, whatever, there's like people in Chicago who are like Texas Rangers fans because they'd get like Texas Ranger radio and stuff, you know, like way back in the day. But at some point, basically just to create more advertising markets, they advertisers were able to lobby and get the radio stations to have weaker frequencies so that you had more radio stations, but just for more advertising, you know. I think that was pre the 96 thing you're talking about. I think that's another thing.
That's the thing, like, as far as the radio, like the weakening of the stations, there's obviously, like, if you ask your grandparents, now, like, obviously, like, mine here in Texas forever, but they could pick up those stations in Chicago. And then, like, of course, there's, like, the Wolfman Jack out
just gonna say, the Terry Allen song,
Yeah, like that, obviously, like, that guy was in... I'm blanking on the name.
Del Rio.
Yeah, Del Rio. Yeah, but and then to me, like that shows like people were seeking out that music, and you know, that's helped create rock and roll, if you will, in a lot of ways.
Totally,
is like being exposed to music that was being played elsewhere. What's interesting about the Telecommunications Act thing, though, is I've heard it talked about specifically with country the most. And probably like 3 months ago, I was on Clubhouse and I went into this room. They were talking about hip hop, and it was like I don't know if they do it nearly as much, but like basically like a couple times a week they'd have like a subject about hip hop, and there'd be like a bunch of people listening and like 5 or 6 people talking, and 2 or 3 times Telecommunications Act of 90, I think it's 6, was brought up, and it was like about hip hop radio stations becoming less diverse and just sounding the same. Where now, like, I guess like their whole point was like how New York sounded like New York, and Baltimore sounded like Baltimore, and Atlanta sounded like. And if you think about it, it's like, oh shit, like that. It affected like basically every kind of genre.
Totally, I'm sure.
That's probably why we don't have nearly as many what I would consider like rock and roll bands. Like they're all like rock pop bands.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case. I don't know. It's a lot more
Totally.
affecting. It affected music in general, I guess.
Big time, man. I mean, that's, the internet has a big impact on that too. I think I don't really know. I mean, as a music fan, it's I'm a pretty like voracious music fan. Like I really like to listen to a lot of stuff, a lot of new stuff. So it's like I'm really appreciative to live in the internet age and have access to all this stuff. But certainly, I don't really always know. I mean, like you have access to all of it, but like at least on Spotify, so often I'll just wind up listening to the same stuff over and over and over again because I can't think of what else to look up, and like I feel like the radio is a good way to just kind of have your mind blown on something you never would have thought to search,
Right.
Spotify has, I guess, some like radio search stuff, but I'm still like a bit of a Luddite when it comes to like I just feel like there's got to be something. I like the human touch, you know what I mean? The human touch of a DJ kind of picking what's going to be coming next versus like a Spotify algorithm that just like is kind of quantitizing my interests into like zeros and ones, you know what I mean? Like just feels there's got to be something different there in the final product then.
That's something interesting right there is I think that people love Spotify because they think it's you have more free will on what you're listening to. Right. And I think like that's not the case at all. Like I think that like people act like, oh man, like you have access to all this music and then you're able to play what you want and you're able to create your own playlists and yada yada. You can find playlists to follow, yada yada yada, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, I think like that's just like the perception of free will. Like you can kind of like you're still listening to whatever genre you're wanting to or whatever. Yeah. But what you're being thrown is like the stuff that they see as popular, or you know what I mean?
Totally. So, no, so that song I Found Someone on My Own by Cal Smith. Mm-hmm. You ever heard this? So basically a friend of mine messaged me. He was like, man, I just heard this song. I feel like you'd sound good singing it. He sent it to me. I listened to it. I was like, oh, I love this song. Yeah. And we cover it now. But in the course of like a week and a half, like 4 or 5 people sent me that song. And I was like, what a weird coincidence that all these people are just heard the song and thought of me. And then it just occurred to me, it's like, oh, Spotify, that just must have popped into one algorithm on Spotify. And like a whole bunch of people around me just wound up hearing it in the same week or whatever. You know what I mean? So yeah. Yeah. To your point, it's like, someone made a decision on, I think, putting that stuff in, or it's just some algorithm.
Well, you can see like, like the what's crazy is like there used to like there's clearly still radio promoters out there in the world who are doing that and song pluggers in that capacity. But now like there's that Spotify or the playlist plugger basically. Yeah, and you can see where. So I kind of think of like the radio plugger, I think that's kind of like a made up job. Yeah. Even though like people like there's probably some, I don't know, whatever. I feel like it's one of those things. It's big here in Texas country.
Totally.
Where, you I hate to say pay for play, but you're paying the radio plugger to promote whatever song. And to me, it's like that was the DJ's job, I thought. Like, just let the DJ pick out.
Yeah, as someone without much money, that sure feels like pay to play to me. I definitely have never been able to afford a radio person.
But, like, that's basically happening on Spotify as well.
Totally,
And I don't think, like, people think that they're doing the exact same thing, but in a lot of ways it is. But,
definitely.
I don't know. Like I always felt like that was just kind of like the DJ's job or the journalist's job or the whatever the case. Like the PR firm. Like we just created a different kind of PR.
Right.
But I digress. I want to break one more time to talk about our pals over at Desert Door and offer up a quick Thomas Mooney's Cocktail Minute. As I've said probably 100 times by now, by no means am I a seasoned mixologist or bartender, but these have been some of my Desert Door go-tos. For starters, let's just go with the tried and true ranch water. Pop the top off the Topo Chico, take a good swig, now pour in some Desert Door and top it off by throwing in a few lime wedges. never fails. This one, it's so simple it probably doesn't even count, but again, pretty foolproof. Do the exact same thing, but get you a Mexican Coca-Cola. I guess you can go with a regular one, but you're really cutting yourself short if you don't opt for the Mexican import variety. All right, here's the change-up you've been waiting for. Desert Door Sangria. This one is prime for when you have company coming over and you aren't wanting to just be over there making 6 different drinks at a time. What you'll need is some Desert Door, obviously, a bottle of red wine, honey, boiling water, apple cider vinegar, some cinnamon sticks, a couple of apples, and some thyme sprigs. I know, that may sound intimidating, but trust me, it's worth the prep, and honestly, it's pretty easy. For starters, get you a punch bowl, add that honey, those cinnamon sticks, and the boiling water together. Now you're going to want to stir that all up and let it cool down for about an hour or so. Remember, patience is a virtue. Once that's done, add some Desert Door and stir vigorously. Now add the wine, the cider, and the vinegar, and continue stirring until it's equally mixed. Now slice those apples up and toss them in. Put in those thyme sprigs as well. Now you can pour that over some ice and you have a mighty fine sangria. Chef's kiss. Anyway, those have been some of my favorite go-tos as of late. And remember, Desert Door is as versatile as vodka and more refined, smooth, complex, and intriguing than tequila. It's rich and balanced, and whether you decide to keep it simple or want to experiment, Desert Door is that perfect Texas spirit. There's plenty more recipes over at desertdoor.com as well. Check out the show notes for a link. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, well, totally, man. Those are kind of, this is all like eye-opening stuff for me just in the last few years, you know what I mean? Because I've been doing music forever, but in a very amateur way, you know, and I was like just kind of home recording and releasing stuff online here and there under different aliases and names, and I kind of still had this idea, and I think the general public very much had this idea that, that things are still like kind of meritocratic, right? Like stuff gets on the radio because it's good enough, and stuff gets written about because it's good enough, and like there's this web of like journalists and DJs who are passionately involved in playing what they like, and that stuff does exist, of course, and that's one place where I think the internet is proving to be a little, return to some of that, journalists being able to go on Substack and stuff, and Gimme Country, like, is allowing DJs and journalists to kind of just, or you're doing a podcast, you get to do your own thing. But I remember our first album, Hey Come Back, was the first time I'd ever worked with a publicist. And it was like this really weird, disillusioning. I actually thought that I didn't think that the job was getting done correctly, because basically the first few things we got were just like the press release, basically rewritten as a blog post. You know what I mean?
Oh no, that's like my number one thing I hate right there.
And so I was like looking at like my publicist, like, are these even real? Like, are you like scamming me to like making me feel like I got press when they're just like and then I realized like that's the game, like so much of this is just like hiring somebody that has the connections, and then the quote unquote journalist is just like literally just kind of rephrasing whatever press release they got about it, and I mean, that's just, it's, music is business. It's big business. It's not as.
Well, the just the copy paste of the press release is like the number one thing I hate as far as internet journalism goes.
Totally. And the more you're around it, the more you can see it right away. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's one of the things that I always think that's just kind of like one of those. Okay, so hypothetically, you have a publicist. That publicist writes that press release, sends it, and you get a write-up in whatever place, whatever website, and they do the copy-paste job. Well, it's like they will share that post like it's, the best thing since sliced bread, the invention, right? But it's like, dude, we all got that same press release. Like, you're not fooling anyone. Like, what are you talking about?
I know.
But you know,
yeah, man.
one of the things that they want, what a lot of and obviously like a lot of PR people are, you know, I'm dealing with a lot of PR people, and there's a lot of great ones out there.
Sure.
But you know, like what they kind of want you to do is they want you to copy paste whatever that is into that spot, so then you can quote that website as saying that, and like you wrote your own
quote,
you know, where it's like Rolling Stone said this about Croy and the Boys, and it was like, well, that was actually written by us, and you know, just update the press release, you know.
I know, it's a funny game, dude.
Yeah, there was something else that you had mentioned there that I was wanting to comment on. Now it's the copy paste job thing took it over.
Sorry.
But it's I don't know what it was going to be about. It was going. I know what it was. I know what it was.
Yeah.
Now. So one of my buddies, he often talks about like how, you know, we here in Texas we have our own little radio charts and all that stuff. And at one time there was a couple of them running around where, you know, I guess like the reason why you do the pay to play or you get a radio promoter is so you can get as many like number one hits on the whatever Texas chart. One of my buddies always mentions how, and this is the same thing with like Billboard. You can only be on, I guess like technically on Billboard, once a song hits number one, they're probably not really promoting that song anymore. But so that, like, you know, they're just putting it onto the next single. But on like the Texas charts, you could only be on for like the charts for like 20 weeks or something like that. So
and then they pull you off.
Yeah, like whatever you peaked at, like that's what it was. And obviously, like you can still be played, but like
right.
you know, you're not just going to be on the chart. So like his whole point was like, you know, okay, so they do the list 1 through 100 or 1 through 75.
Right.
If they took that 20 song or that 20 week limit off or whatever it is, 25.
It'd be all George Strait.
Well, yeah, that was his point. It's like, how many like Pat Green songs would just be charting forever because he's just always played on Texas radio.
Yeah, Robert Earl Keen and Pat Green. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
that's funny. I didn't know that. Yeah,
you know, like it may not, you know, like "Road Goes On Forever" may not be like the number one song for the last 30 years. But it may be charting in the 30s right now. Like,
totally. Yeah, totally, dude. Yeah. No question. Yeah. That's really funny, man. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that I'm glad we're talking about this because I really I don't feel any need to like I wish this stuff was more transparent for listeners and stuff, you know? I get why it's not because I think it's like a helpful marketing tool for people to be like, we did this and we got this and we're doing this, but like I'm all about transparency with my little audience, my little crowd. I like keeping it real. You know what I mean? I like when I post about albums, I talk about real numbers, how much we're spending on stuff. You know what I mean? I don't like to keep any illusions about anything. So I think it's important for people to understand what's exactly going on. You know? So
right.
We're talking about this.
I think it is too, and I think there's, you know, a part of me thinks like some of this. If I was like focusing on this like all the time, it would just be exhausting. And like I'm just like, let me just talk about like the stuff I like instead of, you know, the criticisms of everything in this scene. But you know, every once in a while, it's fun to just kind of pull the curtain back and go, why are we playing this game, guys? Like,
well, for me, it was good to learn about it all because I decided that I'm not going to play that game. You know?
Right.
I don't care. It's like I'll never have the money to compete on that level. Like if that's what it comes down to, you know, I don't have any money. I'm like just a working dad. So it's like I can't compete on those levels. So but that's freed me kind of creatively. You know, that's where like an album like Howdy High Rise and especially this new one, of course they do come from. It's like, well, if I'm not ever going to be able to compete in that anyways, I might as well really just do exactly what I want to do, you know, and spend the money where I want to spend it, you know, on a music video or on a fun photo shoot or something than on a radio person. Cause whatever, I can't compete with some of these other people that have oil money in their family or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Well,
bankroll and this stuff,
you know, the rich uncle to help you get that first record out, you know, that, that was
or the second and third, you know,
that was a big thing. I think in the 80s and 90s, especially, but You know, I think like it's also helped create, as far as like tapping out of the game or like just deciding not to be in it, that freedom, as you mentioned, that's helped like create a, you know, a little bit of an underbelly of a culture, a subculture, if you will, that maybe not isn't, you know, ever going to be played on top 40 or that top layer of culture in Texas. And I'm talking specifically about Texas or country now, but it's created, you know, these very, you know, diehard. I think like these fans are a little bit more diehard in a lot of ways, a little bit more passionate, a little bit more invested in these little pockets of you know, Texas or country in general. And I think like you still see the regionalism in those places. I think like clearly there's still really great stuff happening down around Austin.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. We have I mean, I was down, you know, not being from Texas, it's like when I moved down here, I was ignorant of Texas country, you know, or red dirt. I'd never heard those terms. I didn't understand that Texas country was a genre, you know, and I knew like some Robert Earl Keen, I knew some Pat Green, like the hits and stuff, but I definitely didn't know about the culture and that whole world. And so I was making music in Austin, kind of doing what I considered to be honky tonk country music for a couple of years before I really even started getting hip to all that stuff. So, yeah, there's definitely another like kind of countercultural thing happening. And people are really starting to grow out of it, you know, like, you know, I think Vincent Neil Emerson comes more from that world than from the Texas country scene, you know, and he's doing great. Or there's that dude, Nick Shoulders, you know, I feel like these are people that are really starting to amass, you know, Charlie Crockett, of course, you know, like those dudes are kind of tiptoe around the Texas country world without doing the straight up, just like, you know, circuit.
Yeah. Well, it's this, like Texas country is such a loaded word because like there's plenty of times where I just want to say like a band is from Texas and they play country and say Texas country and then go like, no, I can't do it that way. I just like a country band from Texas or mention like whatever city it is later because, you know, people are just going to automatically think it's, you know, Pat Green kind of Texas country. And of course, like, you know, I grew up on Pat Green and I think like there's something very, very specifically good about that kind of music. And then like there's plenty of stuff that like you kind of go, oh, okay, well, it's not as deep as the Vincent Neil Emersons of the world, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see what he's got coming up next as far as his new record with.
I can't wait for it with Rodney Crowell.
Yeah, because like clearly like the Rodney Crowell producing. That guy right there. Like as far as like if you go back and look at those 80s guys from Texas, the Rodney Crowells and the Steve Earles and stuff like that, the Robert O'Keens, they were, you know, just considered country music, even though they weren't, you know, they were kind of being pushed out of Nashville because they didn't sound like radio country.
Right.
You know, but I think that's like still like the backbone of like country music coming out of Texas is people who grew up on that kind of music or were influenced or inspired and then are doing their own thing. Like, you know, you mentioned the Charlie Crockett's, like the Mike and the Moon Pies, those kind of guys, all kind of just the Garrett T. Capps of the world.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man.
So obviously, you know, you mentioned being down in Austin for a while now, a decade plus. I always wonder about, do you know that like you're in the middle of like a, you know, a renaissance, if you will, in music while it's happening, or is it only later where you're like, oh, that was some good old days as far as what was coming out?
Can't speak for anyone else or anything else, but I feel like basically once the White Horse opened, it felt like something special was going on for me. Mm-hmm. You know, I was playing, basically my intro into like the country, you know, this little country scene we're kind of talking about that exists in Austin, came from Leo Rondu. You know Leo Rondu?
Mm-hmm. I've never met him, but I'm familiar.
Yeah. So he had this Monday night residency at the Hole in the Wall. And that was kind of, you know, I moved down to Austin with the intentions of finding country music basically. I grew up with, Bowling Green is like a college town, but there's a bunch of like rural stuff. So I grew up around like top 40 country, but it's not the South. So I feel like my parents, are from Midwestern cities. A lot of people, it's like small town people, or like there's like university people in my town and stuff. Point is, I wasn't really exposed to like classic country growing up. I only knew contemporary on the radio, Shania Twain and Lone Star and stuff like that. And so in college is when I finally, I'd already gone through my Bob Dylan phase, and I'd fallen in love with like Appalachian music and stuff. So I was creeping south, and then in college somebody finally gave me Willie Nelson Stardust and Honky Tonk Heroes by Waylon Jennings, and that's basically within a year I'd moved to Texas. And I moved to Austin without knowing a damn thing about Austin. I didn't know UT was here. I didn't know anything about this town. I seriously was like, just had become like so enamored with like these long-haired hippie cowboys from the 70s that I like just literally just got dropped off by some friends on a road trip down here. And that's how I moved down here. And was kind of dismayed to find out that it was also a college town, because I just left one, and was to also find out, like we were talking earlier about the regionalism thing, that there was also a shit ton of electro indie rock stuff happening here too. It wasn't just like the dusty little cowboy town I had dreamed it was going to be. But anyways, it was Monday nights at the Hole in the Wall is when I finally like found what I was looking for, which was like this kind of classic sounding country thing. And that was Leo Rondu was doing every Monday. And I saw Mike and the Moon Pies open for him. I saw Jonathan Terrell open for him. I saw Sam Doors. This is pre-Des Lons. Sam Doors would come and open for him. I saw the Carper family, which is like Melissa Carper, and open for him. I saw Brennan Lee do stuff there. So this is like, that was the beginning, but it still was like kind of just relegated to like this Monday night thing, this special little scene. And I was just kind of, holding up the wall in the back. I'd never seen people two-step. I was just like blown away. I was there in like some beat up Resistol cowboy hat I bought at like a pawn shop, just trying to soak it all up, and then basically Leo Rondu needed a bass player for a tour, and I played bass, and so I joined his band. And not long after that is when the White Horse opened. And for me, I was still very much in my honeymoon phase of moving to a big city, and chasing my little music dreams. So I felt like the White Horse was just like, it felt very special to me, and it felt like a very unique, awesome thing. And then touring helped to reinforce that too, because, as the years went by, it was like more and more when he left, people everywhere we went, people knew about the White Horse. And then all of a sudden bars started opening up around the country where the owners were like, kind of open about like, this was inspired by their trip to Austin to the White Horse and stuff like that, So there were definitely moments even on stage, I think, with Leo Rondu's band, especially when we were doing Thursday night residencies at the Horse, and it was just totally packed, and we were looking around at each other like, no matter what happens in our lives and our careers, this is going to be a really special time, like, I think me and especially the Leo Rondu band tried to be very appreciative in the moment about recognizing that this was like a very cool thing to be doing.
Yeah, I think like that's such a, I don't know, it's probably like against human nature to appreciate the present without like,
it's hard.
I'm assuming, you guys weren't making eye contact and going, oh, this is amazing. And then, let me set up my phone real quick so I can record all this.
Right.
Because like, that's what like we all want to do is like, or that,
right.
I think that's like the human nature to try and preserve something by like capturing it on our phone now. And it's like, dude, no one's watching those Snapchats. No one's you're never going to go watch that video again. Just appreciate the moment.
Yeah.
But I think that's like, what's really, really cool about that you're mentioning is all those people you mentioned, they've all gotten records out in the last 2 or 3 years, and they're fucking great records, Yeah. And I'm assuming when you're talking about is, that's 10 years ago at least.
Yeah.
Definitely. And also, those pawn shop cowboy hats, those are like the best. Thrift store cowboy hats. I mean, you can find some gems out there.
Dude, listen, one of my best friends we made music together his name was John Salvage. He still makes music. He's based in Detroit, actually. But he did like this study. It was like a study abroad program, but it was domestic thing. So he like went to a different university, and he went to Albuquerque, New Mexico for a year. And he came back with cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. And I was like, what the, like, where did you get, like I said, it's like, I grew up, it's a small town. We had like drive your tractor to work day and stuff in my high school. The FFA was very big, but it was definitely like farm culture, it wasn't Western stuff.
Heartland.
Like, heartland. So dudes might wear belt buckles, but not a lot of cowboy hats, not as much cowboy boots. It's more like work boots and trucker hats and stuff. So, man, he came back and was like, what? He's like, and he's like, well, I got Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then like 6 months later, a friend of mine was taking a road trip to California to move out there. And I was like, can I come with y'all? Can we stop in Albuquerque? I want to buy a cowboy hat. And so I was like, it's like, well, shit, I got to go to Albuquerque to get a cowboy hat. So I literally took this road trip with these dudes, and we stopped in Albuquerque, and that's where I bought this Resistol. And that was like my only cowboy hat for like years. And I remember I was working at a music venue that's no longer in Austin called Momo's. And one of the bartenders there was super Texan. Her boyfriend actually at the time was a tour manager for different, like, I think he worked with Reckless Kelly and stuff. So, they were the ones who kind of clued me into that whole scene. But he, anyway, she finally was like, that hat sucks. And she took it. She's like, I'm going to get this shaped for you for Christmas. But that's not fixing it. You need to get a better hat. So it was like a long, slow, I had a long, slow education down here in Texas from kind Texans showing me the ropes about how to dress and how to act and what it's all supposed to look and sound like. So
my favorite thing about a cowboy hat still is you put a cowboy hat on and automatically become like an authority figure. Yeah. Like people automatically think like, oh, this guy's supposed to,
well, the boots help too because they give you a couple inches. You kind of like they naturally put your shoulders back when you're in them. You're like just stand taller.
Yeah, you can like literally walk into anywhere without being like asked like who you are if you got a cowboy hat on. And boots.
That's really funny.
I'm talking like even like if you're wearing like a tracksuit and like cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, like anything.
Hell yeah, totally.
So that's the best way. So
that's funny.
Yeah, and I'm always about like just finding the cowboy hats at the thrift store. The thing is like I've got a pretty big head, so like I'm not like everything at the thrift store is like a 7 and an 1/8, or 7, and you're like, shit, dude, people were just so much smaller back then.
Yeah, totally. Well, lucky for me, Thomas, I wear a 7. So.
Oh man, see,
little head me, I know. Yeah, little head.
Yeah, see, I'm like a 3/8 at, and then like if I have like my hair long, it's like a 7.5. So.
Yeah.
If you any listeners have like 7.5s out in the garage by your grandparents, send them my way.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think that's yeah. Anyway, yeah, man, it's been great talking with you this afternoon. Thoroughly,
thanks.
Been enjoying it. Love to do it again.
I'd love to. Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, that is it for this episode. Be sure to check out, Of Course They Do, the new EP by Croy and the Boys, just released last month. Go stop on over at our presenting partners, Desert Door and the Blue Light Live. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't just yet. And yeah, I'll see y'all next week for more episodes.